Hi, welcome to another episode of Meet the Author. Tonight we have the author Stephen Ayer and his book Choosing Simplicity. I'm going to read you a little bit about what the book's about. The purpose of this book is to try to help anyone maintain what I call living on the top of the mountain in a pure, contented, happy state of mind. I remember pockets in my life when I was so happy, but wondered why they were so fleeting. It was like reaching the top of a mountain, but never being able to stay there. I found myself always slowly sliding backwards, or simply standing in the valley below, looking up and wondering what happened. Over the years, I've come to understand that the only way to stay near the top of the mountain is to constantly remind yourself, daily, weekly, monthly, of all the things that are important to you. Without constant reminders, we forget how we got to the top and revert back to our old ways. It isn't even our fault because it's in our nature. It happens with or without our permission. We simply have to commit to combating it. I don't know about you, but I want to live a fulfilled life with happiness, health, and accomplishments for myself, my family, and the betterment of others. I want to live on top of the mountain every single day of my life, and I'm willing to do what I can to try to accomplish that. Sounds like something I'd like to write. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you. So tell us a little about how you got to write the book. You're a financial planner in business and in your profession, and we said, you wrote a book that maybe would compete with a psychologist or a guru. So we came to an interesting discovery that as a financial planner, you actually have certain skills that will help you write this book. So tell us about that and how the book is set up and why the planning part fits in.
Absolutely. I give advice in the financial markets and in financial planning for a living. I don't typically give life advice, but it was an easy progression for me, given my background, given my personality, given what I've gone through throughout my life, and some of the challenges that I've encountered, to write this book, which is focusing more on life choices opposed to financial decisions.
Now tell us a little bit about how you set this book up, how its chapters are, and a little bit more about planning a financial portfolio, how in a way that sort of like is planning the chapters in this book.
That's a good question. The book is broken down into five different chapters, where you have qualities of importance, you have challenges, you have things to avoid, as well as things to embrace and cultivate. There is a little bit of a business focus in the book. I have a few writings on business applications as well. But the way the structure of the book is such that there's 99 different concepts in the book, which I think pertain to the majority or all of our daily decisions, whether big or small. And I really gave more of the focus of the book to outside of the financial world, and focus on.
So let me read, to help you out here, let me read some of the concepts that you mentioned in the book. So section 1 deals with the largest, most general, but most important concepts.
Right.
Then section 2 is labeled challenges in life. Section 3 is the longest and contains entries on qualities to cultivate. Section 4 deals with qualities to avoid. We all want to hear about that one. And section 5 contains business applications. So do any of these, the way you sectioned it off, and that's the format that you used here. So each page is a part of the section, but also each page is a standalone reading with a different topic. So, for instance, here the topic is choice, or today, time, truth. We'll go through these a little bit more. So, that format, does that have anything to do with your financial planning, or it has to do with you as an author, or just you as a person?
You know, I think if you look at the biggest area in the book is the qualities to cultivate. That's the largest chapter. And the qualities to avoid is actually the smallest, other than the business chapter, which I didn't want to focus on. So I think that working on qualities to cultivate, to make yourself better, is a more healthy focus, opposed to trying to focus on qualities to avoid. So in other words, focus on the positive, focus on what you can do to really make yourself better, to live more in line with your priorities, because that's really what the book is about. It's bringing your focus back to your priorities on a daily basis through the diligence of that focus.
Now, the title is very interesting, very catching title, and so is the cover. I mean, choosing simplicity. I mean, you know, financial advising is anything but simple, unless you make it simple for the people who are coming for advice. That should be the sign of a good financial planner, probably. So why did you pick choosing simplicity? How does that ring in your ear? And don't forget, this is Meet the Author show. You have to now think as an author.
Well, there's a quote in the book from Warren Buffett that he says, "Investing is simple, but not easy." So
it's not rocket science.
Yeah, these aren't, you know, this isn't rocket science. These aren't new concepts necessarily. But living them and making each decision by them, by your priorities, what you know you should do every day is challenging. Because we all know what we should do, right? We should maybe eat better. You know, there's a whole long list of things that we know we should do, but it's hard to do it. So what this book really does is it, as you said earlier, each page is a standalone page. There's a concept, a quote of that concept, a thought behind what that interpretation of the quote means, and then an action. So within 3 to 5 minutes each day, you can read one of these concepts and walk away with an actionable plan to start refocusing back to where you should have been maybe all along.
That's very good, asking you to do something. So let's read an example before we ask some more questions.
Great. So I think that...
while you're looking for an example, we talked about one of the things you say here. What is your definition of happiness? Or you said that you know a lot of people that were very wealthy, but they weren't happy. And you wanted to find happiness. And that's the fleeting issue, you know, the pursuit of happiness we talked about. So, which was actually a book made by another financial planner.
Right.
So, you know, why is it these financial planners have to write about happiness? But you chose simplicity, not necessarily happiness, but maybe simplicity is the way to get to happiness. You know, don't get overburdened.
When you break down each of the choices that you make down to its lowest common denominator, the most simple base, that decision becomes pretty easy in many cases. It's not certainly always like that. But if you break it down to its simplest form, it's easier to make a decision. And that decision will most likely be more in line with your priorities and what you're trying to accomplish than if you create a complex, leave it in its complex form.
Yes, no answer sort of thing.
Right.
Cool.
So let me read, this is a quote by Kin Hubbard, who is a late 19th century author.
And this is about possessions.
Yeah, and this topic is about possessions. And it says, the quote is, "It's pretty hard to tell what brings happiness. Poverty and wealth have both failed. So people think that that money, if they had money, they'd be happy. But then, then they buy a bunch of stuff and they want more money, and it's kind of a vicious cycle. So if poverty, and I believe that this quote is true. So if poverty doesn't make you happy, and wealth, money doesn't make you happy, what does? And my action in this, unless you want me to read the whole thing, there's a thought. Okay. So here's the thought behind the quote that I just read. People think that if they can only reach a certain monetary status, they'll be fulfilled and happy, but that's simply not so. Happiness transcends money. It transcends possessions and other worldly desires. Once we attain something we desired, we often immediately want something else. Sure, maybe we're happy with whatever it was for a while, but then we want more. No one, especially in America, where people are judged by their monetary success, likes to go backward. But sadly, going forward is defined as a second home, a more expensive car, more vacations to exotic places, or just more stuff. But moving forward is much more than that. We shouldn't confuse having money or the spending of it with happiness. In fact, we might be happier if we downsized, not taking that vacation from which we return exhausted, or not having the most expensive car that we can or can't afford. Why not simply be content with more? Why not, let me take that back. Why not simply be content with what we have or with less? And then the action is...
Well, less is more.
Less can be more, absolutely. The action is understand that money or stuff won't make you happy. Now begin your quest to figure out what will.
So what is the action you have to take here?
It's really deeply thinking about where you're at.
Take the time out to think about that issue.
Right. Instead of thinking that money is going to, or the next thing that you're going to get, or whatever it is making you happy. Take a step back and really think internally. Do some introspection. Yeah.
So have you met very happy people who had a lot of money though?
I have met a lot of people who have money and are very happy, but I've also met a lot of people who have a lot of money and are miserable.
So what is your take? What is the success of people who are happy? What are the things you have to do to be happy if you're willing to pose that?
Right. So this book is really about diligence, and it's about focusing on your priorities, refocusing on your priorities, and making decisions that are in line with that, which lead...
And I'm happy you said the word refocusing, because you yourself said you read the book every night yourself. Because what's the reason? Because you forget, and you have to come back to it. Very good. So I like that word, refocus. Go on.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that this book is a book about how to become happy. What it is for me. It's been, and for others who have given me some feedback on it, have been a way to discover what is important to them, so that they can focus on that better, which in turn does lead to happiness. But for me, my own personal happiness is found in my faith. So it's this.
So you have to look for what's going to make you happy.
Absolutely.
And try to find it. And this book is telling you to look for it.
Yeah, and it just keeps bringing you back to center. Mm-hmm. It keeps bringing you back to focus.
So in your case, it's your faith. But what about some other people? Do you have examples from your research? Other people, how they find, maybe it's like something they themselves don't know. If you ask them why you're happy, maybe they don't know. But is there something you discovered, a common core, since you did research this topic?
It's a great question. I think that in general, if people are living according to their purpose, what their priorities are, if they're living in line with their priorities, then they're generally happy people. If you're living outside of,
Well, that's important because there's a famous book by Frankel, the guy who survived the Holocaust, the psychiatrist. In the end, what helped the people survive the Holocaust is when they found their purpose in life. That gave them the ability to continue and survive. Does that mean happiness? Not necessarily, but maybe that's part of it. But he discovered purpose, and you say that, that's very true. So go on.
yeah, I certainly,
That's a very famous book.
yeah, I know that book, and what I say, you know, the transcendence of your psyche and what's important, right? I mean, in other words, if you say that the most important thing to you is X, but you don't display anything in your actions and your choices that would lead other people to believe that, then you're living out of line with what your priorities are. Or maybe that's not your priority and maybe something else is. So you're, you know.
So here's a good question for you,
Okay.
whether you want to take it or not.
All right, this will be interesting.
Are we born happy and life messes it up, or we were born not happy and we have to find happiness? If you look at a baby, are they crying or are they laughing?
I think that's an interesting
Are they
question.
happy to be in this world?
Yeah, I think as I believe that inherently in most people there's goodness in everyone, and we all want happiness, right? We all look for it in many different ways, through many different avenues, and most of them don't lead to happiness. I think inherently we are a generally happy people, but we get messed up along the way.
So we have to stop those negative things from stopping us from being happy. We should just let the happiness be there and not ruin it. That's your take on it. Very good. So let's get another beautiful idea.
Okay.
How to thwart negativity, maybe?
I'm sorry?
How to thwart negativity. Go towards the middle of the book.
Okay, let's go. Yeah, let's here. You know what? One of the
Whatever chapter
the
it's in.
concepts to avoid is hypocrisy.
Very good. Okay.
Okay, and this quote is by Andrew Carnegie.
Love him. Read his books.
I'm sorry?
I read his books.
Yeah, that's great. I read his biography years ago and have been fascinated with him for years. But he says, as I grow older, I pay less attention to what men say. I just watch what they do. And
You judge a person by their actions, not by what they say.
right, because oftentimes, and it's kind of what we were just talking about, you can say one thing, but act totally different.
Next time I go to a political convention, I'm going to hold that sign.
That's right. So it can be more beneficial to watch what someone does opposed to what they say.
So
Do you want me to read?
on.
Okay. No matter what we say, write, suggest, or preach, none of it means anything until we put those thoughts and ideas into action. Anyone can talk a good game, but the actual execution of the plan determines who's going to win. Hypocrisy is all too easy to allow in our lives. Saying something is to actually doing it as easy as to hard. We see hypocrisy from this is to your point. We see hypocrisy from our politicians, religious leaders, and the business elite, and from ourselves. No one wants to admit that he or she is a hypocrite, but all of us are guilty of it, some to a greater extent than others. We may know or believe in something, yet do something else that completely contradicts that knowledge or belief. Let's try to live our lives with as little hypocrisy as possible. Let's make sure our actions speak for themselves in a positive manner. That's the thought. The action is, do you try to practice what you preach, or should people watch what you do rather than listen to what you say? Always try to do what you say you're going to do, and always try to act in accordance with your beliefs to minimize hypocrisy.
Very good. So let's see, you said you went to some author talks. How are you trying to market these ideas or the book, or both the ideas, the book and you? Like, so you said you went to a library and you gave some library talks?
Yeah.
So how'd that go?
You know, I really enjoyed it.
Because now you're with the people who are going to be influenced or be interested in that topic.
Right. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I actually met a lot of wonderful people and sold a bunch of books. I actually have had one of the individuals from that experience contact me as a follow-up just this past week, actually, and say that they wanted another 20 books for a presentation that they were going to do with some of my work.
They wanted 20 books for a presentation they're going to do?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're going to take your book and present it for you.
Yeah,
That's
which is
pretty
great.
cool. You know, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and I'm on Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble and a bunch of other online book retailers. But up until now, so I appreciate you having me on the show. Up until the last few months, I really haven't marketed it that much. But it's something that...
But this is something that's timeless. You know, you can always get back to it. It's not going to... These lessons in life are not going to disappear. You can even come back 20 years from now and it'll still be applicable. Now you mentioned about a Facebook page. What happens? How did you know you did that? Actually, somebody just yesterday said, should I have a Facebook page or should I have a blog? So did you have a blog or a Facebook page?
I have a website for the book, which is www.choosingsimplicity.us.
So www.choosingsimplicity.us. Okay.
And I do have a Facebook page for the book, Choosing Simplicity.
Choosing Simplicity, that's the Facebook page.
And I actually had someone contact...
Like that page. Everybody liked that page, okay?
There you
You
go.
have to ask people to take action.
There you
I
go.
learned something tonight.
That's right. Someone contacted me through the Facebook page and said that they...
Facebook works. We just learned.
Yeah, it was really cool. She's down in I think Arizona. I don't know her. She reached out and said she's read it 3 or 4 times and it's one of her favorite books and it's really helped her and that was great feedback. So
You know, that's like what the author needs in life. Someone read your book and it influenced their life, and they actually read the book more than once. I mean, when an author hears that, that's like the best thing to tell other readers, because sometimes they want to know, should I read that or should I waste my money? Should I waste my time? And here's a good reason to get the book. So let's pick one more. We don't have to read the book. We're going to read it over here. You don't have to get it.
Okay. So I think that this quote from Zig Ziglar is really representative of the book, the essence of the book in many ways. The quote is, "You are free to choose, but the choices you make today will determine what you will have, be, and do in the tomorrow of your life." So in general, that's really the essence of this book. Boiling down your choices to their most simplistic form in accordance with your priorities and making that decision, however large or small.
So that's a good point. Do you feel, as a financial advisor, that people are coming to you in your business, and not because you're a financial advisor, but because you have the opportunity to observe people, and they really don't know what choices to make with their finances?
I certainly see that quite often, particularly in today's environment where things are very complex and policy, monetary policy, fiscal policy is very different. At least monetary policy is very different from where we've come from in the past 70, 80,
I find
90
my
years.
personal take on that is, everybody, is that the more the small writing is complex is because they don't want you to understand what's going on. So there's no reason for anything to be complex. You can choose simplicity. But if it's complex, it's because people want to hide something from you. That's my simplistic answer to complex matters. But
I think that a quote in my book summarizes the new monetary shift, the new monetary policy shift, and it's from Ben Bernanke, our former Fed.
I actually read his book.
Did you?
Yeah, go on.
And his quote says, "The United States government has a technology called a printing press, or its electronic equivalent, which allows it to produce as many dollars as it wishes at essentially no cost." And they're exercising that quite well in the last 6 years.
I got to take it back. I read Greenspan's book, not Bernanke's book.
Okay.
I'm sorry, everybody. But that's very interesting. That's true.
Yeah, and this is the overriding theme in the markets and in the economy for the last many years. But if you break it down to its most simplistic form, they're printing money, which is driving up the stock market, but not really helping out the economy. So something is going to give.
That's why we have a crash every now and then. And then we just print more money, and then it crashes, then we print.
Well,
History repeats itself.
it does. It certainly does. But you know, in the last 6 years, we printed far more money than we've ever printed before. We've never even come close to doing what's happening
doing
right
now.
now. So things are, whereas they used to be challenging from a policy perspective before, and you know, you could make a lot of cases in terms of what was happening. But today, it's
We lost a handle.
significantly.
We definitely lost a handle, and I was listening to something on the radio about that. Just coming over here, we just lost a handle on what's going on. So, Stephen,
Yes.
sign over a book. It was a pleasure having you on Meet the Author.
Thank you. It's been great.
Now, my life's been very complicated, but I'm going to take it from you. Make it very simple and have somebody print the money for me. Thank you.
No, I don't know about that.
But will that bring happiness? Nice to have you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Jason.